Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Mindhunter Season 2, Episode 9. It is the season finale of Season 2. Full spoilers for the episode, and indeed, of course, the season as a whole now. So we'll get into it. And this one stuck with Atlanta the entire... I mean, there was one shot of Wendy at the end, just when she saw the paper that, you know...
I have thoughts on this.
You have thought what, and the fact that we got one shot of Wendy at the end, seeing the results of the case in the paper?
That felt like a slap in the face.
Because there was no payoff to her stuff from before?
I think if they weren't... I mentioned the last episode, feeling like Wendy's been left behind this back half of the season. This episode, they devoted entirely to Atlanta. I understand why. But literally not showing her at all until look, they solved it, just felt insulting. Just don't even bother at that point.
Yeah, I think what would have been nice is a scene where they met with her afterwards to talk about it and have like a debrief almost. That might have been a nice... Just to analyse the case, what happened, how... Because obviously there's a lot of unsatisfying elements to it for us and Holden at the end. To sort of work through that and talk to Wendy about it and just give her some closure in the season as context of the actual main case, I guess.
Yeah.
That said, I did think it was nice to end in the BTK scene because... I thought it was weird we didn't start with one. I thought, it's the last episode, why didn't we start with one? Because maybe I'm forgetting, but I don't remember the finale of season 1 ending with BTK. There was definitely one at the start. I don't think it ended with BTK, though.
I don't remember one, but it's been so long, I could be wrong.
People could fill us in, but I thought that was a nice touch.
It's a nice, symmetry, isn't it?
It's a nice touch. Keeping his sort of slow burn going. Because again, if we're lasting 5 seasons, then, yeah.
Yes. Not that Netflix viewed us yet.
Not yet. I feel fairly positive that we'll get at least a season 3. I'm hoping because Fincher's behind it and because there's still been a decent amount of talk about this season, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Fincher has a bit of sway with Netflix. He's been with them for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, House of Cards got to season, 7? And that
Seven?
Was it 6? Whatever the last one was.
I think it was 6, but I could be wrong.
You may be right. I don't know. Obviously, there was the Spacey seasons, then one more. I don't know what that last one was, but it was around that number. I do wonder, again, just because of that legacy, the fact that got us one more season to wrap things up, even after all the hubbub.
It did. It was one of their first big shows. And Fincher was instrumental in that as well. So it makes sense that they've got this relationship with him that maybe they'll give him an extra little pass compared to some other people.
Yeah, I feel like it. But I guess one thing we should talk about before we talk about the episode as a whole, one of the things we were talking about last episode is whether or not Holden's panic attacks would return in the finale, and they don't in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And I get why that'll disappoint you, and I do agree it's kind of weird. But let me sell you on just a possibility here, because and this is nothing too specific, but there is something that I do quite like in some shows, and this might be end up what's happening here. Is I kind of like sometimes in shows when they do set something up like that. Although I admit they set it up so strongly that he might go at any point. We have to really keep an eye on him. That felt a bit strong given the context now at the end of the season. But I do kind of like sometimes in shows when they set something up like that early and then legitimately forget about it. Not literally, but forget about it.
It feels like they forget about it and they come back to it 2 seasons later. No, I get that. I'm with you on that feeling.
Yeah.
But usually that's kind of something that's borderline throwaway already, where it's in one episode. It's just a little thing that feels like that could go somewhere, and then it never does, and then out of nowhere there it is. This was for the first 3 episodes felt like the focus. It was Holden's big thing early this season.
No, it was the focus after. Like if it had just been the doctor telling them what he told them in the hospital, and then it was like, maybe something happened, maybe won't. But it was all the scenes with the others, like saying we need to watch them, we need to watch for the signs of a panic attack.
Even up to like maybe 2/3 through the season, it was like, hey, is Holden going to be okay on his own?
Yeah, but it's really been kind of absent the last 3 or 4 episodes. But, as soon as we started to really focus on Atlanta, it really kind of faded away.
Yeah, I can sum up my feelings on this episode very easily, actually. Everything that's in the episode, I love. The problem is what isn't in the episode. Wendy, these things with with Holden here, so it's weird because I do love everything that it actually does do.
And I think my not defense per se, but my kind of my point on this, just to try and sort of, because I think it's worth mentioning here that it is this weird feeling at the end of season 2. I think ultimately, though, with a show like this, especially that's on a streaming service, is that if this is ultimately going to be, a complete show, let's say it's 5 seasons of, 8 to 10 episodes per season, depending on what they go with. Ultimately, in the future, people are going to watch it as one big thing. And I wonder if, you know, the idea of like not giving Wendy time in the finale is really a big deal when you're watching in the future, when, you know, it's like, because as you said, it makes sense why we completely focus on Atlanta in this episode. It actually, I mean, it does.
It does, yeah.
So
I will say, just as a slight point against that, you know, the season feels very well rounded as a whole entity in its own right. Even down to, you know, the ending has like, you know, that when the movies are based on events and it has the text come up giving you the real things at the end.
Yeah, it's clearly saying now that the Atlanta case was the main thing we did this season. So here's a bit of context for, you know, where we are now with it.
Yeah, and when you put that statement at the end, it feels like a definitive ending of a chapter. So it feels weird not to end with other things as well.
That said, I did like that the BTK scene came after that text.
I agree.
That was a nice touch.
That was very clearly saying, hey, no, this was season 2. BTK is still coming.
Yeah, BTK is still, like, BTK is the whole show. And don't get me wrong, I think maybe the final season will be devoted entirely to him, perhaps, or something like that. But he's the whole show.
You just got to hope they know going into the final season so that they can...
I think Netflix, for the most part, have told them when their final seasons are. I mean,
it's usually felt that way.
Usually. There's exceptions. Obviously, some like the OA didn't get that, but there's been a lot of shows recently where the 3rd season's the final, the 4th is the final, you know, like 13 Reasons Why, you know, just got its 3rd season and they said, oh, we're doing a 4th, but the 4th is going to be the last one, kind of thing. Like, you know, they seem to be aware that having endings for their shows is appealing to people.
It's good for them in the long run.
As long as they see, as long as it balances with the value of actually paying for those seasons, you know, like, I think there's obviously a line where it's just not worth doing even for that because the show is just doing nothing for them. But it's a balance. Yeah. It's a balancing act for them, I'm sure. But anyway, the episode itself, we obviously pulled over this Wayne Williams at the start or the end of the last episode, and we start right there. We start with them checking the car, talking to him, getting this initial conversation out of the way. Asking him why he's out here, where he's going. He's going to see this woman about singing because he does a radio show and he tries to manage people. And it's like, it's 3 a.m. He's like, oh, I'm doing a dry run, so I know where to go tomorrow, kind of thing. Still a bit weird, it's 3 a.m., but okay, all right, yeah. Holden's checking the cars, Bill's talking to him.
Yeah, some like, oh, okay, there's all these hairs. You know, he says doesn't have a dog, but...
Yeah.
Then there's a rope with knots at both ends. There's these gloves. It's just like, oh, the my uncle's. It's his car.
Yeah. And then later on we find out his parents have a dog who he lives with, who probably has been in the car. So it was weird to just point blank say I don't have a dog. That's a weird statement. Because let's be fair, if I think if I lived with someone who had a dog, I wouldn't necessarily say, I wouldn't necessarily consider it my dog personally, but I would still say, when people say, do you have a dog? I'd say, well, yeah, because there's one in the house. So yeah, I live with a dog.
Exactly. Yeah.
So very curious phrasing on his part.
Just strange decisions here. Like, you know, like he gives them, you know, this story that, you know, this woman he's off to meet, you know, maybe. You know, he gives them a name and a phone number, which they can very easily verify or not, as the case may be.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, my names look like 4s. That last number's a 9. They try both. One is disconnected, one, you know, isn't answered. I mean, which makes sense. It's 3 a.m.
Yeah, but they try again the next day, and it's a business, and there's no one there by that name. Never has been.
Yeah, so they ultimately have to let him go. You know, Bill sees that, you know, phones the higher ups, and they're like, no, if you don't have a body, and they're looking for one. You know, we see officers looking, you know, through the river with the flashlights, and they get really pissed at this cadet because Holden told this cadet to log all the evidence that's in the car. And after the guy leaves, he's like, oh, can we look at that rope or whatever? And he's like, well, I didn't take it. You just told me to write all the evidence down.
Yeah, you told me to log it, so I wrote it all down.
He's like, I didn't think I had to tell you.
Yeah. Bill's like, you didn't tell him to bag the evidence? Well, I didn't think I needed to.
But you can tell by his uniform, though, he's a cadet. He's not like a fully trained officer. He's still in the academy.
Yeah.
So, you know, he feels like an idiot. This will stick with him. The idea, I mean, admittedly, because he eventually gets arrested, maybe he'll feel better about it and sleep at night that they still caught him. But he's going to feel bad about this.
As well he should. And given the way that they get him, you know, that could have been key evidence with doing more.
Yeah, because they never find the rope. Yeah, exactly. And that could have tied them to more crimes, because as we see at the end, they only tie him to 2 of the 29 victims. Notably, not the children, the 2 oldest victims.
Yeah. This is what, last episode I said there's a twist.
Yeah.
That was what I knew, is like they don't have any of the kids on him, and that's really interesting, I think, from our our protagonist side of things.
I actually really like how they pose the possibility of other potential suspects at the end, because they can't really go in and like confirm anything because it's never been confirmed, right? But they pose this little bit of detail, this detail from the last episode. It's like, hey, remember that house? The kid said that, because that was a detail that was not relevant most of this episode. It never really came up until very near the end, after they've already arrested the guy. He's being charged with the 2 murders, and Jim goes, oh hey, I looked into that house the kid told you about. And yeah, it turns out, and blah blah blah. And long story short, it seems like the evidence, all those photos, and remember the big key thing we kept saying is that there was no black kids in any of those photographs they got from the pornographer pedophile's house, right? And it turns out that one of the young recruits who was helping sort through them said there was photos of black kids before it was logged into evidence, and then all of a sudden they weren't there anymore.
Yeah, he said there was thousands of pictures, and all of a sudden there's only 300 to 400.
Yeah, and because there's this moment at the end of this scene where they all kind of look at Jim, Bill, and Holden, and Jim's like, it's clear that people in this department and in Atlanta PD knew we should be looking at these people in these houses and didn't want us to.
They actively kept it from us.
Yeah, which leads to
this great shot where it just slowly moves around the room.
Yeah, it's this idea that we can't trust anyone in the room with us. That I'm sure there's been knowing nothing about this case, just this ending tells me there's been theories about people on the police force who were involved, about these picture rings, all this stuff, and the thing is the beauty of it is for the perpetrators, assuming that there are more perpetrators, and this is indeed correct, is that as Mrs. Bell says when Holden goes to see her at the restaurant, because the city has their scapegoat, all these other people have to do to never be caught is just don't kill anyone here in Atlanta. I assume if they want to keep doing it, they just move, because as far as Atlanta is concerned, this case is solved, and even though they've not technically charged them for the other 27 murders, in people's minds, for a lot of people, it's like, well, he probably did those.
Yeah, and maybe he did.
And maybe he did. Yeah, we don't know. Maybe he did.
It's probably one of those things we'll never know.
And maybe
unless he gets to his deathbed and confesses, who knows?
Little column A, little column B, maybe. The idea that he did, because at one point it says there's like loose evidence to tie him to about 10 of them. Maybe he did do 10. Maybe 20 were not. Maybe he's someone who took, once they started, he took the opportunity to sort of turn it into his thing. And so when I said that, I really feel like it was one person because of the way he was taunting police, I believe he was the one taunting them. I believe he was the one.
Oh, absolutely.
Just because of who he is, the way he talks to them in this scene, the way he's confident, wants a lie detector test, the way
he's kind of terrifying, right?
Yeah, the way
in a very calm way.
He's very good at making it sound like he's the most innocent person in the room, and making sure he knows that he thinks he's smarter than them.
He reminds me a lot of Kemper, if we're comparing it to the other killers, in the sense that he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's very intelligent, and he's maybe not quite as intelligent as he thinks he is, but he is smart enough to be doing a damn good job. And what he's doing.
And they look into it, of course. The next day they go back to see him. They ask him more questions. This time about what he was doing during the day. Where was he? Throughout the day before he was at the bridge that night.
Yeah, and they're already getting some holes. Some
contradictions.
He wrote down the phone number, so presumably he was the one who took the message. But then he claims his mother took the message, and he just copied the number.
So, and why would he copy it? Why wouldn't he just take whatever she wrote it on?
Right. There's all these things that are technically plausible.
Yeah,
but maybe unusual enough.
Maybe she wrote it in the corner of the newspaper, but she still wanted to do the crossword. So no, you can copy it.
Right?
just spitballing like this.
No, exactly. And he goes, well, that's the number she gave me. Again, could be true.
It's a very intentionally unsatisfying episode because ultimately they get enough. where even though the DA is against it for a lot of the episode, they get enough because of there's like a governor's mansion thing where guns there, and like they kind of pressure the DA with the fiber evidence that they find. Because this is the thing, to us, hearing about fibers like matching to a crime scene, to us that's like, hey, that's a smoking gun right there. Like, that's pretty good. Like, but in 1980, clearly the attitude with forensic evidence isn't quite as solidified as we think of it.
Yeah, circumstantial at best.
Yeah, and
I love when they go in. The carpet's completely different.
Yeah, I love just this idea that, I mean, I'm not saying that'd be enough completely on its own for a conviction now, but I think these days that'd be considered like a bigger deal than some other stuff.
Definitely enough to hold them and question more.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because like you say, they go into the house and like they've completely changed the carpet, but they find like one square of it in his bedroom. It's like where his shoes are all kept. He's got like a little square.
under a cupboard, basically. They kind of just move it, and they didn't do under here,
which is actually so relatable to me, because my cupboard right over there has an old carpet at the bottom because I never bothered changing it when I put the flooring in. I have an old blue carpet under that at the bottom of that cupboard. You just
figure, it's never moving, so.
Yeah, like I'm like what do I want to do? Clear out this cupboard so I can take out this one like rectangle of carpet? No, I'm fine. Like whatever. And the door's always shut. No one sees it. It's fine. It makes sense. That said, if I was a serial killer and I was trying to hide my evidence, maybe I'd think twice about it.
Maybe you'd do a better job.
Yeah,
you'd be more thorough. Yeah. But I mean, it was a pretty rushed job on his part.
Sure, yeah, because that's the other thing. There's a neighbor who says he saw him burning stuff, and it was the night after he ran into the FBI. Like all of a sudden, he's like burning stuff.
5 a.m. and he just goes, he's burning, rubbish, and it's like, again, plausible, but why at that time? And then that night, very suspicious. And then they ask him about it. He's like, no, I wasn't burning nothing.
Yeah, there's all these little things, and they tail him. They tail him, because. And I'm just making sure I got my sequence of events here, because this is before he's questioned, because after he's questioned properly in the station, that's when everyone knows who he is, and it's a media frenzy.
The press is there.
So it's before that, where they're tailing him, but Holden and Bill are very aware of the fact.
Just before we get to that, the night before, the great sequence where they're trying to plant the bugs.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they've got a guy in the car, and he's like, he puts the tracker under the car. It's quite quick, and he's just a stick job. But he's trying to like wire up the mic inside the car and the dashboard.
Yeah.
And the radio, and
he's in the car. And, one of the lights in the house comes on. And again, it's middle of the night. And they're like, why is he up at this time? It's weird. I mean, we can't judge. But then, then the next light comes on. And shame on him for not turning out the light when he left one room and went into another.
Yeah, if I'm ever questioned by police, I'm like, yeah, keep odd hours. What do you want from? I'm a weirdo, right? Sure.
Yeah.
But it's actually the guy's dad. He's taking his dog out for a walk at a weird time.
Yeah.
Again, weird, but he's not doing anything wrong. Well, he's just taking his dog for a walk.
I'm sure some people do.
Yeah. But yeah, so they're tailing him, right? And they've got all these cars, and it's like, hey, could some of you cop cars pull back? This looks so suspicious.
There's 6 cars in a plane.
Yeah, there's 6 cars that all take the same turn, following him around the corner. And like, hey, can you guys pull back and just maybe have one car on him? We can see him. Like, I'm not worried about losing him. We've got a plane also watching him.
Yeah.
And of course, it all leads to this moment where he goes to the drive-thru after a couple of turns, and they're just waiting for him, and they're sort of ducking their heads so he doesn't see him, but he stops. And I knew what was going to happen. Like, you sort of get it immediately. He's walking over with a bag of food. He's bought them lunch, and he comes over and knocks on their window. Says, "Hey, I thought you guys
might be hungry."
Yeah. And Bill just turns to Holden and says, "I think we've been made."
Is hands down the funniest line of the season. Even though I knew it was coming, I knew he was going to say it. I knew the whole scene. I was like, they've been made. Yeah, that's the joke. Still hilarious.
Yeah, I love how he doesn't really hesitate. He just goes in for the fries, like, very quickly.
That's Bill, isn't it? All season, he's been like, hey, food, I'm taking it.
Yeah, so he's also eating a sandwich at one point in this. It's when Holden's typing up
right next to Holden's ear, and he does not look impressed.
Yeah, can't fault him. But I like this moment because again, it showed his hubris. It showed his like, see, look, I'm smarter than you. You can't trick me. This is how good I am. That was what it was. But of course, Fibers, at least the proper interview, deputy mayors even in the interrogation room. Not if it's in the same part, but on the other side of the glass. And
watching.
Bill and Holden go to town on him. And it's
a fantastic scene.
It's fantastic, but this is what I was saying, where it's intentionally unfulfilling, because I think we go into this as an audience, right? And maybe if you remember the case, you're not expecting it, but I think as the audience, you're watching this and you've been waiting all season, you're like,
where do they get him? How this is, they make him talk like they've done with every other convicted.
Well, see, this is different though, because the other like convicted criminals have no reason to lie, whereas this is like there's more at stake here because this guy doesn't want to tell the truth.
Absolutely, but you still think. Again, I know the situation, but the point is, you think, oh, they're gonna do what they do to the convicted people, but to him, and get the confession out of him.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's still coming. I'm sure that's going to be a big moment when it happens, when we finally get like the current like. Maybe that'll be the end of season 3. They finally nab someone with their profiling skills, where they're able to do this, and like he has all these answers to all these questions. He keeps, and some of it's really thin because they're like, hey, you hand out these flyers for young boys looking for singers. You do it at these locations. What about these other locations? He's like, yeah, probably. It's a mall. Thousands of people go there. He has a smart ass answer for almost anything they say to him, and. I think Bill gets a little bit frustrated to a point, and he's using it as a tactic. But he flat outright just calls him what he thinks he is. He says, the fact that you do all this but make no money from it tells me you're a creep, you're a pedophile. Like that's what it tells me. He's like, look, you can't prove I murdered no one, so prove it. I'll take a lie detector test. Again, he's willing. He's like more than willing to do it.
Yeah, because when they searched his house, they found a book. And there's a great thing where. I think it's Jim that's looking at it, and he shows it to someone else, and and you don't see the front of it. You just, but they're like, oh shit! You just see on their faces.
Yeah.
And finally, you see it. It's how to beat a polygraph test.
And then Bill has maybe my favorite line of the episode. Actually, it's like, hey, if we find a book that says how to murder young boys and get rid of the bodies, we can go home. It's sure enough, it's inconclusive because even Holden points out that it flatlines 3 times, and that's usually a sign that whoever it is beating the test because they're controlling themselves.
He never reacted to anything. The only people who do that are sociopaths.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that he is. Like, they're right to apprehend them because they do at least confirm 2 of the kills. Like, they do. Like, it's not like they're wrong.
And it's weird that convicting someone for 2 murders feels like a loss.
It does, and it's one of these things where. It leaks to the press who it is because it's supposed to be unknown. No one's supposed to know who they brought in and talked to. But it leaks out, maybe himself. Because honestly, there's a moment where he's leaving the station after being interviewed where he's looking at the press and he almost wants to go over and talk to them. Like, he's really thinking about it.
I think the bit that kind of goes against that is, as Bill points out, they used the specific title, Atlanta Monster, which was something they were using internally. I don't think he heard them call him that.
Sure. Which maybe goes along with the idea that someone in the police department wants it to be him so that they're not looking in other places. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Which actually adds credence to when Tanya comes to speak to Holden. And this scene really hurt in a lot of ways because she has so many valid points. And we know why Holden thinks what he does. We know he's just not racially profiling someone. But everything, when he says, I'm looking for someone in this age range and a certain type of car, and she's like, that's what every cop looks for in this city. Like, you understand why she's saying this. And to a point, she's right. If her theory is right about one of the cops wanting it to be him as the scapegoat, then even though he is guilty of certain murders, she's right. Like, someone's using him as a scapegoat.
But it has, because Holden. I mean, maybe we're off base here, but it never feels like he has any sort of racial prejudice against this. He has shown racial prejudice in the past in a very cold, logical way. Like with Jim's hiring or lack of hiring. Last season where it was no, the killers might not respond to him because of it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because he didn't like him because of it.
Yeah. He's never given us that impression. But so it's kind of heartbreaking because you kind of where Holden's coming from with his mind. You know enough about him to know that that's just not how he's thinking. But at the same time, Tanya isn't wrong for making this point. She really isn't, especially with all the extra information we get throughout the episode. Like, it makes complete sense. And I think what it really paints is that there's no clear win in this scenario. Like, I mean, outside of like just all the bureaucracy bullshit and the cover up going away. Like, obviously the win is for that not to happen and for them to actually continue looking for the perpetrators. But personally, for these 2 characters, right, there's no win in this. Holden makes his promises and he wants to help, and that's why it looks like he's been defeated at the end when Gunn's like, oh no, it's just inactive now, it's up to the local police to continue if they want to, but we've done our job, we've done what we came here to do.
We got the guy, we've got national attention, we're sorted.
So, and Gunn's quite happy about it, and it's because it's a neat point where Bill even says is they're getting on the private jet. He's like, let's do a victory lap, and that almost mirrors the same line that Mrs. Bell said when the mayor or whatever was on TV talking about, oh, this is a victory lap. She said,
yeah, and I understand why Gunn is happy about this, right? As far as he's like, hey, we got someone, and at the press conference where they're announcing that he's been charged. He's saying, do you know what? It doesn't matter that we're not tying into all the others. To him, he's like, no, it's not about that. It's the fact that we've got him off the streets. He's not doing it anymore.
And to be fair, that point is actually also a very understandable one that I think, because let's say we were dead certain it was him that had done all the murders and they just couldn't prove it. That point would sit with me quite well. It's like, okay, we can't officially tie him to them, but he's not going to be killing anyone else, so we can feel better about it. The problem is we have enough reason to doubt that he actually did all the other crimes.
Yes, absolutely. But I can get Gunn's logic, right? Yeah. And his thought process.
And another part of the logic, of course, is that on a pure, forward-thinking way, it's like, even if this isn't a complete win, the support we're going to get because of this perceived win will allow us to catch other people more often in the future.
Yeah, it'll mean people take us more seriously, so maybe they won't doubt Holden's nonsense as soon as he comes to town every time.
All the red tape he faced, getting the crosses, getting the flyers, maybe in the future they'll shut up and do what he says because they'll have a reputation.
They've got a reputation that they've caught someone. So, hey, next time they come, maybe we should listen to them because they know what they're doing.
So there is almost a bigger picture here, which is really cruel to say because then you still have these 27 kids who have been murdered and the mothers who don't have answers.
That is undoubtedly what Gunn is thinking of. And it's his job to be thinking of that bigger picture, to be fair.
But Holden, for all the shit we give Holden for not, being a normal human, he has empathy here. And he's feeling the fact that he can't solve this for them. This is killing him. So even though he's not a normal person and relates to normal people in normal ways, there is, a really human part of him here. There's almost a heroic part of him that wants to, be hero. In a relatively healthy way, I think, as well. I don't think this is a bad thing. It's just that, but he's going to punish himself for it.
I mean, a little obsessive, I would say.
Sure.
As Holden tends to be.
It's not perfect. I'm not. I'm certainly not going to say that. But it's just really good. And so he gets out, and of course he has a media frenzy. They're showing up at his door. He comes out. He wants to. I want my face on TV, but you can come in and interview me. I'll do a press conference. He brings the reporters into his house.
It's like, here's my CVs.
Yeah, he wants to talk to them about everything, and it's kind of gold just watching him work. And they're like, he loves this. He wants the attention. He, if anything, he thinks he's going to get work out of this and get fame and maybe even advance his music career because he's now the notorious guy who was questioned falsely. But in his mind, and it's kind of gold, but and also
the audacity of that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what? I got this. Hey, all the nation's press, come on in.
And of course, when he does get arrested, they're still trying to figure out how to nail him, and it just kind of happens in front of them. The police go and take him as if they know something they don't,
and they're like, "What the hell's happening?"
Yeah, and it turns out that the police agreed to go and get him only if they could be the ones who take him in, and they all kind of agree that, we would have liked to have known about it, but we don't really mind. We don't have to be the ones who take him in. We don't care. We're here to catch him.
Yeah, we don't care about the credit that much because
I
think even Gunn doesn't, because he's like, no, they know we were the ones who did the work and who solved it. That is a known fact now, so it doesn't matter if we get the collar itself or not.
Yeah. To the agencies, to the not the industry. That's the wrong word, but to the, the criminal justice system, they got this win. That's what's important here because the public perception, whatever.
Yeah, maybe they didn't officially get the arrest, but everyone knows they did the work.
Yeah, and the higher ups see that, and the governor sees that. So it's those people who will be making recommendations and saying, "Hey,
maybe we should, listen to these guys."
Yeah, but it's a really unfulfilling win because it's not a complete win. It's this unfulfilled thing, and we're bringing in police corruption into this. We're bringing in all kinds of extra elements, which I really like about this show. I like that we dealt so much with race this season and how that's influenced this case and how the politics around it have really messed up, and it's given us this unsatisfying one. And I like the unsatisfying ending to this because it's
unsatisfying in a really oddly satisfying way, in that this makes sense to do this as a story beat and go down this path.
It's because it doesn't ring false. It feels real. It feels like, yes, this is the real, result of this. Not just because it actually happened, but because, I buy that this gets in the way, and they just have to accept.
In reality, things don't go the way you want. You don't get a perfect ending, and okay, lock him away, but on all this, all 29 murders, that just doesn't happen.
But at the same time, from a TV show point of view, from a character perspective, this is just more fuel of motivation for Holden to win next time, because next time he's like, I'm not letting that happen again. I am winning this. Like, I am not walking away with a tie.
Exactly.
We are doing this. We are catching the bad guy. And I think, and there will be wins. Obviously, serial killers have been caught in the 80s and the 90s. Like, we're going to have wins where we unequivocally get the right person, and there's no, like, oh, maybe there's other ones we can't tie him to or whatever. Like, we're going to get some wins. Like, we have to.
Of course.
But here's the question, though. Are all the wins we get, are they all white victims? And does that always just paint this with a little bit of a bittersweet tinge that this case, and maybe that's just going to be coincidental rather than
because we've spoken earlier this season as well that statistically it's still, vast majority is white men.
The killers, which means most of the victims are also white.
Yes, exactly.
So and we know that. But in the scheme of the show, though, do you have this bittersweet tinge of like the one where the victims were black, they didn't get, and again, we know that there's a lot of factors here get into it, but it doesn't make it any less unsatisfying that this was kind of overlooked. So, oh no, we've got a scapegoat, we could just wrap this up, go home. It's like, because there's obviously a certain proportion of people in the system who are more concerned with ticking the box that says they've solved it than actually solving it.
Yes, absolutely.
So, the world's messed up is basically what we're saying. And if any high-ranking police officials or FBI or anyone else in the criminal justice system are listening or watching this podcast, clear your act up. All right?
Sure.
I have no problem strapping Connor to a rocket.
He really doesn't.
Just to make a big firework confetti sign. I mean, Connor will be lost in the process, but I think the sacrifice will be worth it.
We'll get you some media attention.
Yeah. But no, so the episode's really good. The episode's great. I mean, as much as there's a couple of things we said, it feels like that this and this is missing. Like you said, nothing in the episode is actually less than excellent.
That's the thing. I love everything that is in there. It's just the things that aren't there that drag it down.
I
think the Wendy stuff more than the anxiety. I don't know. I'm disappointed the anxiety didn't play any factor given how it was set up, but maybe that'll come back later. Whatever.
I think so. I think I'm okay with that being a setup for something that pays off like halfway through season 4.
I'm disappointed because of the way it was set up, but it's not a deal breaker. Wendy, on the other hand, is supposed to be one of our main characters, and she literally got about 6 seconds of screen time in this hour and 15-minute episode.
I do feel like it does make her story feel a bit unfinished, because I don't necessarily feel like the ending to her plot last episode was really that conclusive to me.
No.
So, and again, it's this thing where the season structure is less important on a streaming show, but at the same time, we still appreciate when the creators take it into account. Because we've talked about in the past, I mean, the episode structure, right? The idea that each episode feels like a distinct. And to be fair, I think Mindhunter does that quite well. I think.
Oh, definitely. You can go, that's the episode with this person's interview.
Exactly.
Whatever.
It's clearly defined chapters of a story. But maybe like The Expanse, the actual seasons aren't necessarily the bigger, the select chunks that we would like them to be.
I get that, but even the end of the seasons in that, they don't have anything like this where they completely ignore one of their main cast. Completely ignore. And it's a problem where, because we've been spending so much time in Atlanta more and more over the last 3 episodes, we've had less and less Wendy. And it got to this point where there was nothing. Just, it basically didn't count.
Yeah. Let's not forget Greg. No Greg in this episode. But I really like Jim. I really hope they hire Jim full time.
I would be surprised if they don't.
Yeah. I think working with him here and the idea that, Jim wants to do some good and maybe he feels hindered by the police force around him, given the result of this.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he did say he's going to look into it quietly. But obviously given that there were never any other, arrests, as of 2019, as the end statement puts it, I've got a funny feeling that it's not really going to go anywhere.
Yeah. But I mean, he tried.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. I'm sure the real Jim or whoever Jim's representing, or I'm sure they did. So no, solid episode. Obviously we didn't mention Bill's married life kind of crumbling. He's back for Memorial Weekend and he's barbecuing, and he's maybe even making progress with Brian because he's like teaching him how to barbecue.
Yeah, and he's flipping the burgers and goes on. That's fine. 5-second rule.
5-second rule is a myth. Do not believe it. I'm not having it.
I will happily eat that burger.
No.
Just it's good for your immune system.
So's the anthrax I sent you in the mail.
Yeah. If I show up dead, you're definitely gonna be the first suspect. This video alone, that's twice.
I may have threatened you twice in this video, but I mean, if I was going to kill you, I'd pay someone to do it now because I've threatened you too many times personally to do it myself. It's just
You're definitely a big suspect if I show up dead.
It's fine. I'll make sure I'm constantly live streaming, so I've always got an alibi.
After you just admitted you'd hire someone and you got an alibi.
It's fine. I'm poor. I can't afford to hire someone. It's perfect.
That's true.
Perfect. That's a good point. Sometimes I'm streaming at like 3 a.m. That'll it's always proof of where I am. It's great. I never have to justify it. There you go.
That's true.
I'm there. There's a record on the interwebs. Check with YouTube. It's not doctored. So she actually gets really upset that he has to go, but he's like, hey, we might have him. We've got, because this is the moment actually where they get a sketch from someone who saw him talking to someone of the victims, and it's like, oh, hey, this is like, he seems like the guy now. Like, we've got someone here.
Yeah. And again, you should mention again, Nancy's talking about moving, and feels like, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, this is the most he gets with it though, where he's actually willing to consider it now, because she says something like, how many times have we moved because of your work? And he's like, a lot. And how many times have we moved because I wanted to? And it's like, okay, you've got a point. Like, even if your reasons are a bit flawed for this particular case.
Yeah, it's all, again, the parents are all talking, they won't let any of the kids play with Brian, so he's just on his own, up in his room, not outside in the nice weather.
She feels victimized to a point, I think, because of the way the other parents, ostracized was the word she used, which is obviously accurate. And Bill actually points out that, hey, is it because he's ostracized or because you feel ostracized? Like, which one is actually affecting you more?
Yeah, and again, he's like, well, stability might be the best thing. He's really been harping on that.
But when he tries calling her, during the week, she doesn't answer. When he gets home
that's the moment I knew where it was going.
When he gets home at the end, well, I wasn't sure because I was actually thinking that something extreme might have happened, like,
oh really?
Brian might have snuffed her in her sleep or something like that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at this point. But. Yeah, he goes home and it's been emptied. I did think it was interesting she actually like had movers take everything. It wasn't just like she left with Brian with some luggage. It was no, we stripped the place.
She left his clothes.
Oh, so she did leave his clothes, that's true. Because that's made it feel more...
And the mattress on the bed.
Because that's made it feel more like, no, I'm leaving you. As opposed to just, I want to move. This was, I am leaving you.
Definitely.
And again, this is an effect of his work and how although ultimately it's what happened to their son but again, it's this combination, because if he was there to be there the whole time, would she have left anyway? And part of me thinks that she might have done it anyway. Like, maybe, sure, the excuse right now is that he keeps being away for work because it's deemed as important, but
I think it was just, fundamentally they disagreed on this issue. Bill thought, no, stability, we need to do this. Maybe part of it was selfish on his part, that, hey, I'm working here, so we kind of need to stay here. But
I'm very, Well, it's a little selfish. I think it's less selfish if in this scenario here, because she doesn't work, right? She's just a stay-at-home mom.
She was gonna be a realtor, wasn't she?
You're right. She was working. You're right. Okay, yeah, no, it is selfish then, because if it's a case where one works and the other one just stays at home, regardless of who's who, which gender's which. Presumably, the person who works, if the job requires moving,
gets priority.
You go with the job. But if both work, then it's just like no, you have to discuss it, and you discuss it anyway. But at that point, it's a bit more of like, okay, is it worth moving for this job if you have to give up your job, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So in that case, fair enough. But no, so I'm actually really curious now to see where this goes next season. Like, does he visit? Do we find out that Brian gets better? Does she end up being right? Does he get worse? Does she end up being wrong?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is going to be Bill just burying himself in the work.
Yeah. I feel like we might not hear about it for a while, and then we'll get like something happens.
This is one of those things. I'm okay if it doesn't come up in season 3. If it's oh no. That's season 4.
Oh sure, yeah, I could totally. I mean, I don't think it's going to do that, but it could.
No, but if they did, this is one of those things where I'm okay with that.
Because part of me does worry that he's going to get a call like 2/3 into the next season, and it's like, hey, something bad's happened, and it's like Brian maybe not killed someone, but he's done something. He's killed an animal or something. Something that's like a stepping stone.
It'll be interesting to see if she's even allowed to keep Brian. In the sense that he was adopted based, and the adoption was considered on the fact that it's the two of them adopting together. Now circumstances changed. There was already a caseworker, and there was maybe he'll be taken away anyway.
Which is a good point actually. What about when the caseworker comes to see them?
It's going to be some interesting.
Has
questions.
She spoken to them? Is this what keeps them together? Because it's like she'll realize that no, hey, you either like, because if the caseworker even sees that there was kind of a separation, that's like a big red flag of like maybe this isn't a stable household. Like maybe so. Does he like find her and talk her into like, hey, if she sees something's wrong, then that could be it. You're going to lose Brian anyway. But then the question becomes like, is she at the point where she almost wants to lose Brian?
Yeah, it goes back to the last episode where she was kind of glad that she wasn't that he wasn't really hers.
Yeah, so I do not see a cheery story ahead for this plot.
No, not at all.
Even if Brian doesn't end up being a serial killer, I do not see a cheery ending for it. So there you go. That is the finale. Unless I glossed over something that you feel is worth talking about, but I think we covered all the basic points.
I think we hit everything I wanted to.
Yeah. No, really good season. Obviously, it's been more practical, more applications of what they've been doing.
Yep.
And not completely succeeding.
There's a couple of structural issues in the back half, but overall, still pretty great.
And we did get one episode almost entirely devoted to BTK, and well, at least when Bill said that plot of that episode, and I do wonder if that's something we're going to get like every season until maybe we get the final season focused on it, where in season 2 there'll be one episode where there's another BTK killing, and Bill or maybe both of them are called in, or they go because they're nearby and they want to check it out, or something like, but they get involved. It's just for an episode, and we get another sort of round of updates where they're still keeping it up in the case. I could see that being a thing maybe. Again next season, or not. And we should mention what he was doing at the end, actually, the BTK scene. So he was doing the autoerotic asphyxiation again, but this time in a motel room, so his wife doesn't catch him. And he had souvenirs from all the, well, not if it was all of them, but certainly several of the victims out in the bed. Yeah. And some had shoes, some had watches, photos, the newspaper reports of their bodies being found or whatever. And he's going to. He's also dressed in women's clothes, and he had a creepy baby mask on. Or not baby, but it was like a...
Do you know what? Actually, this is how I talk about is the music, because we talked. You messaged me. I noticed as well. Yeah. The opening titles is an a cappella version instead of all the offbeat synth noises that we usually have, which I really like.
It was the same
tone palette.
It was the same basic sort of medley, but it was much more harsh sounding and.
Well, it was all voices.
Yeah.
As well.
It was on a much higher range though as well, because it felt very jarring in the ears.
Yeah, but it was interesting that it was all voices, and then, which I thought, that was really interesting. I actually watched it and listened to it this time because it was different, and then the final scene with BTK actually does the same thing with his theme, where it introduces a lot of vocal elements that have not been there before, which I thought was really interesting. As a
I wonder,
a choice to link those.
Do we go back to the regular main theme at the start of next season and? Or have we switched permanently now? And is it an evolution along with BTK? Like as we go through the seasons, as his methods evolve, does the music evolve to kind of keep up with them, kind of thing? I don't know. It's an interesting touch because it really stuck out as soon as it started. I was like, oh, that's different. And I may be wrong here, but I feel like the images of the bodies and stuff that were kind of splittered in, which, could someone actually confirm for me if they were in season 1? Because when season 2 started and I saw those in the first opening titles, I didn't remember them being a thing before. So they might have added them in for season 2. All I remember from season 1 was the actual recording equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I felt like in this final episode, the images that we're cutting to were a lot more in my face. And by that, I mean they were doing a lot more quick zooms and it felt like they were more frequent. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I can't really comment on this because I have not been, I've been skipping, the opening.
I've not been paying
saves a good 90 seconds.
Yeah, I've not been paying attention to them too much, so it's not like I've been glued to them when they're on. I've been, checking my phone or whatever, but this was sticking out to me, and it was kind of like, oh, that looks like they're... And I could be my imagination, but they felt... Maybe it was just the music making me feel that way, but they felt harsher to me.
No,
but...
you could be right. Well, you'd have to do an A/B comparison, I guess.
Yeah, I'd have to look at one of the other episodes again. But that is season 2 of Mindhunter. So see you in 2 years for season 3.
One last thing before we go on. We spent the end of last season a lot about time jumps, and then there wasn't really one. I think it's much more likely after this season, given we end on a much neater point.
Yeah, I could see that.
Last season ended much more directly a kind of a cliffhanger with Holden.
Yeah, also, maybe it's just me, but I almost felt like this last BTK scene almost felt like it had a bit of a time jump quality to it.
I can see that.
I don't know. I don't know if it was just because he had the mask on, so it ruffled his hair a bit, but his hair looked a bit like longer and his mustache looked a bit thicker. I don't know if that was just me, again, my imagination, but...
Yeah.
It felt like time had passed. I don't know. But maybe it doesn't matter that much, but... Yeah, I'm excited to see where they go with this, and he seems to be getting more like overtly creepy. Not that he was never creepy before, but the way he was dressing, the mask,
the imagery
especially,
is really building now.
Yeah, the mask especially was really like if anything was making me think of like Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs, it was we're getting closer to that kind of visual.
Yeah,
almost not exactly that, but it's something along those sort of creepy lines. So. No, very interesting, very interesting. So that has been season 2 of Mindhunter. So you can let us know what you thought of the season in the comments below. You can like and subscribe. You can get us on the Twitters at mailed_fudge for channel updates. If you want to support the show and everything we do here and keep all the content coming, you can go to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses. Admittedly, you don't really get many bonuses for the TV shows we cover because... what can we do for TV shows we cover? But you do get early access to some stuff. You get bonuses for some of the movie podcasts we do. And of course, one of the big things we have to mention is that we have 2 audio podcast feeds for TV reviews. We have this one that you might be on right now if you're not on YouTube, and that is the Almost Cancelled Netflix reviews feed. But we also have just Almost Cancelled TV reviews feed that has all the non-Netflix stuff. Some stuff we do from Amazon, HBO, things like that. So check out both feeds to see if there's shows you're interested in. But you do check out those. And as far as stuff coming up on Netflix, we're trying a bunch of first episodes in September. We don't know at this point which ones we'll keep and do the whole seasons of. It just kind of depends. But we are trying the miniseries Unbelievable. We're trying the first episode of Dark Crystal, the TV show that's coming.
Yeah, that's next week, I believe.
Dark Crystal. Oh, that's August still. Sorry. We're trying Raising Dion's at the end of September. We're trying that. That's produced by Michael B. Jordan. It's about a superhero kid.
The Politician
from Ryan Murphy, which had a very witty trailer that just came out if you want to check out the trailer for that. So these are all things coming on Netflix we'll be trying soon, and I'm always trying to sneak in some extra like foreign pilots and stuff that they put up. I did Green Frontier recently, for example, on my own, just kind of I snuck that in.
Maybe something will stick eventually.
Yeah. So go have a look, see the other stuff we're doing. Hopefully you want to stick around for other shows. If not, we'll see you in a year or two for Mindhunter season 3, but hopefully we review some other shows.
2 years.
Yeah. But hopefully some other shows we cover of interest. So thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?